What's going on, guys? In this video, I'm going to explain every Attack Titan in the history of Attack on Titan. This shifter was by far the most requested, and it's not hard to see why, because it is essentially the main Titan of the show. Not only is it possessed by Eren, who is the main character, but this Titan has historically been held by people who are rebellious and always seeking freedom. As usual, I'll be explaining the backstory of all Attack Titans that we know, as well as commenting on the designs of the previous Attack Titans throughout history. But before we get into it, there are a couple things I want to mention first. Number one is that, for those who might not be aware, the original Japanese title for Attack on Titan is Shingeki no Kyojin, and when Eren revealed the name of his Titan in episode 58, it was also Shingeki no Kyojin. This means that while other Titans might have episodes named after them here or there is clearly one Titan that stands above them all, as like I said, the entire series is named after it. The next thing I wanted to mention relates to the Great Titan War, and it's just another example of why the Attack Titan is so special. According to Willy Tybur, the Great Titan War occurred over 100 years before the series began, and at that time the founding Titan was held by the royal family, and the remaining 8 Titans, including the Attack Titan, were held by noble families. King Fritz then fled to Paradise Island with his founding Titan, and the Tyburs were the ones who were left in control of Marley. The Tyburs then enabled Marley to steal the remaining shifters from the other noble families, with the Attack Titan being the only one that managed to avoid being taken. For a long while, it was unclear how this Titan managed to stay out of Marley's hands while the others were taken, but thanks to chapter 122 of the manga, we now know why. Spoiler warning ahead for any anime-only viewers, as in order to properly explain this Titan, I will be talking about manga spoilers from this point onwards. Anyway, as I was saying, the reason the Attack Titan was able to evade capture was due to its special ability, and this is called Future Memory Inheritance. This is an insane power that enables the Inheritor to see memories of both past and future users of the Attack Titan. Grisha Yeager described it as the ability to know the future, and we first saw this power on display during Season 3. Just before Eren Kruger passed on the power to Grisha, he told him that if he wants to save Armin, Mikasa, and everyone else, then he must see his plan through till the end. The obvious problem here is that Armin and Mikasa were literally not even born when Kruger said this, meaning that the memory that triggered him to say those words must have come from the future. The memory that Kruger briefly saw was likely this moment when Grisha was passing on the Titan to Eren, because in that scene, Grisha said those exact same words. With that said though, it's time to explain the backstory of every Attack Titan, and then when we get to Eren, I'll be explaining how he used the Future Memory Inheritance to influence the past. If you haven't already, then be sure to hit that sub button, and let me know in the comments which Titan you think I should do next. Okay, so the first Attack Titan on this list is Eren Kruger, and I consider his backstory to be equally as important as the Yeagers, because he laid the foundations for everything that happened. Before Kruger was born, there were still members of the Fritz royal family who had been left behind in Marley, and those royal members created the first group of Eldian restorationists. Kruger's father decided to join that restorationist group, with Eren himself being just a regular Eldian child who was born in Marley. We know from his memory that he lived with his parents and had a little sister, but around the age of 10 years old, the Marleyan authorities discovered the restorationist group and burned the Kruger family alive. On that day, Eren managed to avoid being set on fire as he was hiding in the closet, so the Marleyan authorities didn't actually know he was in the house. He watched on through a crack in the closet door as his family were killed, but just before the house burnt down, he was saved by one of his father's friends. This event fostered Kruger's immeasurable hatred towards Marley, and he swore that one day he would get revenge and restore Eldia like his father failed to do. The first step in his plan would begin years later when he met a doctor living in Marley who was secretly an Eldian. We never saw the doctor on screen, but he was the one that helped Kruger to falsify his medical records, and in the process, Eren was able to pretend to be a Marleyan. He used his new Marleyan status to join the Public Security Authorities, which is the same organization that killed his family. The reason he did this will become more obvious as we continue, but to summarize it, Kruger joined the authorities because it gave him special privileges that he knew would one day help to secure Eldia's freedom. It goes without saying that only Marleyans can join the organization, so his fake medical records were 100% necessary, and once he was in, he then had to avoid suspicion. Of course, the best way to blend in with the other officers is to do what they do, so over the years Eren would devote himself to being as ruthless towards Eldians as his other Marleyan comrades. Throughout his career, he tortured thousands of Eldians and turned many of them into pure Titans on Paradise Island. In the year 817, Grisha and Faye Yeager left the Liberia internment zone to try and see the airship, but Kruger noticed them and asked for their exit permits. All Eldians leaving the walls need to have a permit, but on this day neither Grisha or Faye had the relevant paperwork. In keeping with his undercover act, Eren proceeded to give Grisha a punishment on behalf of both siblings, while Faye was taken away by his colleague. That colleague would go on to have Faye torn apart by dogs, and her body would be discovered in the river the next day. We know from Kruger's words 15 years later that he did feel some guilt for calling out to Grisha in the first place, but regardless, he still continued to pose as a Marleyan and rise up the ranks. 2 years after that incident, Kruger would then inherit the Attack Titan from an unknown individual, and although we don't know his predecessor, it's easy to see why they would choose him. Whoever had the Attack Titan must have known that Kruger would be the one to make the Restorationist rise again, because that's exactly what he did. Using an alias known as the Owl, Eren founded a new underground Restorationist movement, with Eldians being recruited all across Liberia. Given that Kruger worked within the Marleyan authorities, he had access to secret information that he would filter down to the Restorationists, with one example being the true reason why Marley wanted to invade Paradise. The Owl also provided them with money, weapons, and historical documents, but his identity was always kept a secret. On one occasion, he sent Grice to recruit Grisha to the organization, and this was a very smart move because Grisha would end up becoming the second in command. Additionally, Kruger discovered the last remaining member of the Fritz royal family living in Mali, and sent her to join the Restorationists as well. Dinah Fritz had a ton of new information that benefited the group, and of course, her and Grisha would then fall in love and have a son called Zeke. Because Kruger had a high-ranking position within Mali at this point, he planned to use his authority to pull some strings and ensure Zeke became a warrior. However, the kid was such a bad candidate that even Kruger wasn't able to intervene. One interesting thing to note is that Kruger said his goal was to boost the morale of the Restorationists, so as a result there was a lot of things he didn't tell them. One example is the fact that he never told them that Zeke would only have 13 years left to live if their plan to make him a warrior was successful. Moving on to the design of Kruger's Titan, it has the same heightened physique as the other Attack Titans we've seen, with its most distinctive feature being its hollow eyes. It is crazy to think that in the 13 years he had this power, this right here is likely the only time he actually used it, because I mean, when he was in Mali, I doubt there was ever a scenario when he actually had to do this. The next Attack Titan is Grisha Yeager, and although we've already covered some of his backstory, there are still many details that I didn't mention. To begin, Grisha was born in the Liberia internment zone where his father worked as a doctor, and as we know, he had a younger sister named Faye. The day after Faye was killed by Malian authorities, the officer that had her killed pretended as if he didn't know what happened. Grisha always suspected that the man knew more than what he said, but by contrast, his parents just accepted the story they were told. This is because his parents were basically afraid, and they didn't want to risk asking more questions because that in turn could get their family in trouble. Grisha's father would constantly try to indoctrinate his son with Malian propaganda in the hope that Grisha would become less rebellious and just accept a quiet life within the walls of Liberia. Over time, Grisha reluctantly came to accept that the world was just an unfair place, and at 18 years old, he was going through the motions, one day planning to take over his father's medical practice. That was of course until Eren Kruger sent someone to speak to him, and that person had information about Faye's death. Like I said, Grisha had always suspected that his sister's death was suspicious, and because Eren Kruger was colleagues with the guy that killed her, he had known the truth for a long time. When Grisha really found out what happened to Faye, he was immediately radicalized and vowed to destroy Mali and restore the Eldian Empire. When Dinah Fritz joined the group, it was Grisha that suggested the plan to take the founding Titan from Paradise and return it to the true royal family. Grisha didn't consider the royals on Paradise to be true royals because they had left so many Eldians behind. After Dinah and Grisha had Zeke, he made the terrible mistake of treating the boy as a tool rather than his actual son, and he was so focused on the goal of restoring Eldia that he never made time to be a real father. By indoctrinating Zeke to become the savior of Eldia, Grisha inadvertently made the same mistake that his own father did and paid the price by being sent to Paradise. Having then received the power of the Attack Titan, Grisha was able to run towards the walls and was eventually picked up by Keith Shadis, who at the time was a young member of the Survey Corps. Grisha acted like he remembered nothing besides his name and occupation, and used Keith as someone who could teach him about how things work on Paradise. Through their friendship, he eventually met a waitress named Carla, and sometime after this, Grisha would use his skills as a doctor to save both Carla and her parents. The two of them would eventually get married and have a son, and Grisha would name this child Eren to pay respects to the man that got him here in the first place. Despite his lingering mission to take the founding Titan, Grisha made sure not to repeat the same mistakes he made with Zeke, and he spent quality time with Eren whenever he had the chance, allowing the child to just be himself. As his status as a doctor continued to grow, Grisha was given more and more high-profile clients to take care of, which in time got him closer to the royal family. On one occasion, he treated a noble living on the island, and when that person was asleep, Grisha stole a document that led to the Rice Chapel. The Rice Chapel is where the royal family go to pass the founding Titan, and with this address, Grisha could finally fulfill the goal of the Restorationists. Nevertheless, it wasn't until many years later that he would steal the founding Titan, as he valued the new family he had built and didn't want to risk losing them. Although he did go to visit the Rice Chapel soon after he found the address, he chose not to confront the royal family and didn't return until the day the walls were destroyed. On that note, we should probably talk about the design of his attack titan, as it was shown to have a few interesting features. Grisha's distinctive elf ears are nearly identical to both Zeke and Eren's titans, which makes this a nice hereditary feature of the Yeager family. His titan body is slightly wider and less lean than Kruger's version, not to mention that he also has titan chest hair and raggedy looking hair on his head. Much like Kruger, Grisha had very few opportunities to actually use this titan, and I'm pretty sure overall he used it twice, the first time being when he ran to the walls, and the second time being in the Rice Chapel. Now, moving on to Eren Yeager, instead of talking about his backstory, I'm going to be breaking down how he used future memory inheritance to influence the past. This was undoubtedly one of the most confusing sequences in the entire series, so I'm going to try and explain it as best I can, but it is still pretty complicated. To start things off, we should establish a few essential rules, with the first rule being that with the power of future memory inheritance, Grisha is sometimes able to see Eren's memories from the future. Once Grisha sees those future memories, then much like any other person, it would affect his present day actions in some way. Rule number 2 is that Eren is likely able to choose which memories his father sees, which means that Eren can use these memories to manipulate his father's actions in the past. This is something that Zeke speculates in the manga, and Eren does not deny doing this. The final rule is that thanks to the power of the Founding Titan, both Zeke and Eren were able to wander through Grisha's memories, however, they are just witnesses and they are not able to interact with the past. This part is so important that I need to stress it again. Eren and Zeke are essentially ghosts who are just witnessing past memories, but they are not able to interact with those memories, all they can do is see it. On the day that Grisha really went to steal the Founding Titan, he entered the Rice Chapel and begged Frida Rice to save the people of Paradise. Because of the vow renouncing war, Frida refused his request, with Grisha then making a move to steal the Founding Titan. As he goes to transform, Grisha hesitates because he can't bring himself to massacre the royal family, and it's important to remember that at this point, Grisha had never killed a person in his life. This is the moment when Eren's biggest interference occurs, and he uses future memory inheritance to do this. Eren tells his father to stand, and as I mentioned, Eren is essentially a ghost, so Grisha should not be able to see or hear him in this moment. However, Grisha can clearly hear him, so I'm going to use a quick comparison to explain how this happened. Imagine that someone from the future is secretly observing you right now, but you can't see them and you can't hear what they're saying. Now, if you had future memory inheritance, you could observe the memories of that person who is watching you. As a result of looking at those memories of them looking at you, you would hear what they said to you when ordinarily you were not able to. According to the second rule I mentioned, Eren could choose which memories he wanted his father to see, and right now as he was speaking to Grisha, he was simultaneously sending that memory back to Grisha during the same moment in the past. In summary, in case that was confusing, while Grisha was hesitating to kill the royal family, he was also at the same time witnessing the memories that Eren was sending back. This enabled Grisha to experience this moment from both his own perspective and his son's perspective, and by doing that, it allowed him to hear what Eren was saying. Grisha heard Eren's words motivating him to do what needed to be done, and this resulted in the slaughter of the Rice family and obviously the theft of the Founding Titan. Without interference, it's likely that Grisha would never have taken the Founding Titan, so this is a paradox that exists within the world of Attack on Titan, but I love this type of thing. I mean, if any of you have seen my Bakugo time travel theory, this is pretty cool to me. In the other moments when Eren is sending memories back to Grisha, you'll notice how Grisha is literally seeing things through Eren's eyes. For example, in this scene, Eren is staring directly at Zeke, and then Grisha wakes up because he briefly saw this older version of Zeke that Eren was looking at. Anyway, with time travel explained, let's move on to Eren's Titan design and the other attack titans throughout history. From the beginning, Eren's Titan has been very athletic, standing at 15 meters tall and having a lean muscular physique. Unlike his predecessors, he has a wide jagged mouth that is only good for screaming, with his tongue looking very devilish. His pointy ears are something that he has in common with his father, but other than that there aren't too many similarities between them. The ancient attack titans are next up, and while we don't know which era these titans are from, it's still interesting to have a look. These first two were seen during the final arc of Attack on Titan, with one of them having hollow eyes comparable to Eren Kruger, but a mouth similar to Eren Yeager. The titan next to him is the Chad Attack Titan, and as far as I can tell, he's the only one to have chest hair besides Grisha. In addition to them, it's highly likely that this titan here was the first Attack Titan, with its defining feature being its weird looking mouth. We saw the Bald Attack Titan in a different panel, who had a slightly less muscular body than usual, and again had hollow eyes like many of the other titans. The Balding Attack Titan also made an appearance in this series, and unlike the last guy, he hadn't lost all of his hair just yet. Any remaining shifters had very brief background appearances, but I'm still pretty sure they're Attack Titans, given that they seem to be the correct height and have the right physique. With that said, thank you for watching this video about all Attack Titans in history, and be sure to let me know which one you think I should do next. Until the next video, peace out.